Hello, everybody. It is I, Bryan the Pirate, and I am, of course, as always, joined by my fabulous co-hosts, Peachy Pixelate.
No,
I had to wait.
Pulp,
I am
fictionally.
fabulous. Oh, that was Welsh. Oh, that was really Welsh.
Oh, that was
You were
very
really
Welsh. That went hella
really
Welsh.
Welsh.
Hella
Yeah,
Welsh.
hi.
And a special guest, my dishwasher. I actually toyed.
I wrote it down. I fucking knew it.
I actually toyed with the idea of putting a picture of the dishwasher as the fourth
You should've.
thing, but then
This
we would have
whole
been the only ones who
episode
got
brought
it.
to you by Bryan's dishwasher.
By Bryan's dishwasher. I got it.
We've been hearing a lot about it.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm so happy I got it for £38. Peachy, have you been on the auction site since I?
A little bit. There's nothing there that excites me because there's a lot of cheap, nasty tech. That no wonder this is being sold cheap.
True. Yeah, I've set up a bunch of alerts for some context. Everyone, there's
Yeah, let everyone else in the joke.
yeah, there's a company here in the UK called John Pye, who do in-person auctions like throughout the UK, but they also have a website. And one of my colleagues at work reminded me that they exist, and it's just down the road from me, like the Nottingham branch. So I literally can just walk there. And I had a look at their website the day, being reminded that they exist, and got myself, which I've actually been after one of these for literally years, but a countertop dishwasher, because I haven't got room for an actual dishwasher in my kitchen. And I managed to get a brand new one for like 38 quid, and it's just been the best thing. Just being able to just come downstairs with my dishes and just go plop, plop, close, and it just runs. And then 30 minutes later, it's done, and it opens up and then dries them as well. Like the lid auto opens and all that. And I know this is such a boomer thing to be happy about, but I'm so stoked that I've got one.
And it's funny because this also instigated a conversation in our Discord where I explained to them, like, before I moved to this house, my husband and I were living in a 1-bedroom apartment that did have a dishwasher, but it wasn't stabilized with it. It was mounted in the countertop, but it wasn't stabilized. So I lived in that apartment for 10 years. Every day I had to hand wash my dishes because if I put the dishes in the dishwasher, anytime you pull the drawer out and put the dishes in, the base, the back part of it would fall out. And our biggest fear was that it was going to fall out entirely. We told our landlord it never got fixed. And so we kind of resigned ourselves and got used to hand washing every single thing. And you don't realize like how much more sanitary a dishwasher is because it utilizes heat that you can't physically handle.
Yeah.
So the one we have here is actually from the 70s, I think, 60, or maybe it's not that old, but it's older. It's a solid unit. Like you pull that thing out and it's just, you get a steam bath. It's lovely.
That's the thing with like older hardware, is because back in like the 50s, 60s, 70s and so on, like it was designed to actually last. So they do. Whereas newer tech nowadays, newer hardware, kitchen hardware and so on, is like planned obsolescence. Yeah, so it's like, oh, it's fucked in 2 years, congrats, kind of thing. Obviously, if you invest in like the beefy brands like Miele, which is a German brand, they come with like 10-year, 25-year guarantees and warranties. So it's like, okay, fine, but they're also like 2,000 grand for a washing machine. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it's also like, you know, there's one, like things are more cheaply made, so people are they're going to be replacing them sooner. I feel like also there's like some sort of psychology behind that too, with like people when they buy their units, they're thinking that they're going to have to upgrade it eventually. So why am I going to spend the more money on the expensive one when that's probably going to last you 20 years, 10 or 15 years? Then they'll just buy the cheaper units that are just going to have to be replaced in a couple. And that's unfortunately the vicious cycle.
When I'm looking at stuff like that, I'm like, okay, is this okay? If I paid this 3 times, would I still want to buy it if this was 3 times the price? Because that's probably
that's the smart way of going about it, is that you should be, if it's an investment piece, it should be something you should be comfortable enough putting down that kind of money on first off, because it is an investment. And it's like you should look at things like warranties and all that is very important. So if it's one's going to cost you $100, but it's only going to last you 3 years, but you pay $300 to buy the one that's going to last you 10 years, where are you actually getting the value? Exactly, and it's obviously the 300 one. That's why they call them investment pieces, but people don't know don't do that.
Welcome to the Boomer Cast, everyone.
I think it's obvious that we're conservatives.
The thing is with this auction website though, is I keep going back to it because there is a lot of stuff on there. So yes, there is a lot of tat, but there's also a lot of like high brand, for lack of a better phrase, stuff on there that goes super
Buying
super cheap.
secondhand is
If you can
a
collect it as
wonderful
well, it's
thing
a
to do.
no-brainer. It's a
You should.
no-brainer.
I think that buying secondhand is one of the smartest things you could do, especially for things like that.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know what was
In my
so
chat
funny.
you typed next. What kind of pillows are right for you?
Oh,
My
yellow
pillow.
pillow. But no, but the cool thing
But,
about the website is because it's like a famous auction in the UK. It's also where
Yeah.
all the actual brands go. So, for example, in the UK, if you go
I'm very
to
excluded from this conversation, by the way, when they were talking about this. I should establish that.
Well, it's British. I'm sorry, but yeah,
Very British site.
So British, it drops the T's.
it does.
Yeah.
It does. But yeah, the thing with John Pye is like if you have a retailer, be it regardless of the goods, like hardware, even supermarket and stuff like that, you get a pallet of goods will arrive, and if one thing is wrong with one item on that pallet, they send the entire pallet back. And then whoever is
Interesting.
providing that pallet goes, well, I don't know what the fuck to do with that. So it goes to John Pye. So you get brand new stuff. Like the dishwasher I got, it's brand new. It's literally just something off the back of a pallet. So I'm just
That's
like,
actually, I'm sure there's some sort of equivalence here in the States.
I imagine
But
there
it's
is. Yeah.
you see that because I know there are ways like you can buy things that were returned from like to Amazon. Like I don't,
Yeah.
like, you know, for example, and like a lot of times people might have just opened the product and
Yeah.
that's it. And they what a lot of I'm sure it's the same there. But as soon as something's open in here, like here, a lot of times they just get trashed.
Yeah.
And they damage it. I worked in retail for about 6 years, and the amount like when I worked in shoes, someone would wear it out one time and they maybe like it hurt their feet, but because the soles were worn down, we couldn't resell them, so you just damage them out.
Yeah.
And that's why secondhand is sometimes the best thing ever, because you know you could have things like, you know, Poshmark, whatever, for like that's in the clothing aspect, where like sometimes someone bought something, used it one time, didn't like it, or if it was a clothing item, you bought it, wore it one time because you didn't want to. You know, you just need it for the one night. You could get something for significantly cheaper. And that's even smarter if it's just something that maybe there was a defective, like a ding on it. You know, I've seen that before where just a small little dent and they damage it out because the thought process is no one's going to buy it.
Yeah.
When your soul is worn down, throw it out.
Yes.
2025.
I've already done that. It's gone.
It is in the bin. Yeah.
It's in the bin.
I've actually got a bunch of alerts set up at the moment. So, because there was like a bunch of Elgato stuff on there, obviously for streaming. So they had like a bunch of face cams. I ended up getting priced out because I was like, if it goes over a third, I don't want to buy them. But because I just want extra cams to do funky shit with. So like, I think they were getting, I think they both sold for like £50 each. So about $60-$70. As opposed to MSRP, which I think in the States is probably about 150, 160 for the face cam. So yeah, it was like stuff like that. So I've actually got alerts set up also for Herman Miller chairs. Speaking of investments, so if an office disposes of their Herman Miller chairs, I'll get an alert and I'll bid like fuck on one of those because they have like 10-year guarantees and stuff on them as well. So yeah,
really fucking comfy too.
Yeah, I desperately want one. Or the other brand that I've got an alert for is HBADA. Bada, I think it's pronounced, and they're like
Such a British segment, I swear
ergonomic.
to God.
Why is it British? These are chairs. Herman Miller is like a worldwide brand.
I'm joking with you.
What are you talking about, woman? But anyway, welcome.
This makes me happy. I'm glad that you're really excited, and I want you to be able to find things of quality.
Well,
and
it's bad because now I'm just gonna keep looking at that fucking website, and in 6 months I'm gonna have a whole ass new kitchen, just buying all these goods. I'm like, oh yeah, a Ninja deep fryer, yeah, get that bad boy, stuff like that. But anyway, should we talk about video games?
I think we should. Except one thing I would say.
Yes.
I would never recommend anyone buy a deep fryer unless you want to absolutely submit yourself to keeping that shit clean and disposing of the oil properly.
Jesus.
Yeah, my mom bought a deep fryer a long time ago, and we ended up trashing it because it had like a hinge, and no matter what, you couldn't clean that thing properly. I'm sure the newer ones are better if it's like a bucket, but just bear in mind that is a huge time investment too, properly disposing of the oil and also keeping that shit clean. Oil's a pain in the ass, guys.
In my life have I thought, do you know what I want? A deep fryer.
I don't eat fried food,
I mean,
so
back in the day, maybe, but nowadays it's all air fryers, isn't it? Yeah, there's like
it's just,
Ninja.
I always like
Russell
to give
Hobbs.
that little bit of advice to people when they want to get a deep fryer, because it's like it's more trouble than it's actually worth.
Yeah, 100%.
And eventually you start going like, you get excited, you want to fry everything at first. And then as soon as you start realizing like this is a pain in the ass to clean and it's a pain in the ass to get rid of the oil properly, you never want to use it again.
You end up
Okay,
just
boomers, let's stop booming.
I am a boomer. I'm sorry.
no, and then you end up keeping the oil for like a really really long time.
Video games, gamers, come on, let's go.
Okay, so video games.
Video games.
The first.
Oh no, the agenda's just boomer.
Boomer.
Right, okay.
Are you old? I'm an elder millennial. Anyway.
I'm a younger millennial, but I have a very old brain.
Pulp is the youngest. Who's older out of you and I, Peachy?
I'm definitely older than you, dude.
How old are you?
I will type it in the chat right now. Dude, I got a stream to get paid.
No, I don't want to know my age. I age myself constantly.
Oh, I thought you were still in the same decade as me. I didn't realize that.
I am 35.
Yes, you're 35. Fair play. Someone in your chat is telling fibs, I think.
Yeah.
They're a fibber. But yes, video games, ladies and gentlemen. So recently, there was an earnings call with a certain CEO of a certain EA Games. His name is Andy Wilson.
Oh my God, I'm so glad we're talking about this. I've been trying to keep up with it, so I want to know more.
Right. So Andy Wilson is the CEO. He looks like every serial killer in every movie ever.
You've never seen his face before. I imagine.
He looks.
Did you just put CEO?
That is actually his face. That is actually what he looks like.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's intense.
Impressive brows.
They've been microbladed for sure. 100%.
For sure. Microbladed, or he definitely gets them threaded.
Yeah. 100%.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm just
there isn't. No, we're actually applauding his eyebrows.
Well-groomed brows is very important.
He looks like he wants to stab me, but damn, I'm impressed with those brows.
He wouldn't stab you. Get someone else to fucking stab you.
True.
Yeah, you would pay for someone to stab you.
Well, he wouldn't pay. He'd like, oh, maybe I'll pay you to do this thing for me.
Well, they're already on the payroll.
I don't actually know if the CEO's a dick.
They're already on the payroll, so they're getting paid, but they're not getting paid extra to stab.
Number go up.
For legal reasons, everything we just said is hypothetical.
It's all alleged.
It's all alleged. We don't actually believe he will.
It was AI.
No, this is actually Andy Wilson. So it's quite funny because he used to be a dev. Like he was actually a dev. He was a sports dev, so primarily worked on like racing games and FIFA and the like. And he rose through the ranks to become the CEO.
Okay.
May I ask a question about him?
Sure.
Was he the one who said that he wanted, if he could charge people to reload their guns, he could?
No, that was the same guy who used to be the CEO of Unity.
Okay, I got them mixed up. I if it's not obvious, all CEOs are evil.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Allegedly. But
allegedly, they're not all. I'm sure there's some nice ones.
So
but very few.
He's recently had an earnings call, and he was, of course, talking about the profits or lack thereof that they've made in the last, I believe it was the last quarter/fiscal year. And this is about a week after the news had come out that BioWare had essentially downsized. They avoided everything they could to say that in their statement.
Do you know that was crafted like poetry?
Oh my God.
That was
really well written, but it's like anyone with
this whole story,
like, oh,
this whole story is nuts too, because the way EA's been trying to twist this in a positively to also hide what their own shit that they're doing too. It's fascinating. It is quite fascinating. Go on, Bryan.
No. So yeah. They've obviously downsized. A lot of people have moved to other places within EA away from BioWare. So it was a permanent move, not temporary moves and stuff like that. And some people have left prior to the downsizing. It's basically halved, is what we've been able to establish. They literally have half the staff they had last year, and that's not obviously
It's
boding.
like under 100 now, right?
Yes. It's a roundabout / under 100. When they had about 200 before. So
It's
obviously
crazy.
people are quite scared about what's going to happen with Mass Effect. And then it was also announced via EA that the performance of Veilguard didn't meet sales expectations by about 50%. And the actual wording they've also used is it had, I think it was 1.5 million engagements. Not sales, engagements. I think these two are spamming like AI pictures of Andy Wilson.
No, it's not an AI picture. That is the villain from Mirror's Edge.
No, I
2.
saw that in my chat. If you
okay.
look at the main bad guy in Mirror's Edge 2, he just happens to look a lot like Andrew Wilson. That's what I just
That's
saw in my
true.
chat too.
He does.
And Peachy puts up the picture. I'm like, oh my god, it's true.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
But yeah, so they were like, oh yes, we got 1.5 million, 1.5 million engagements, which includes EA Play, which is obviously their subscription model, which we also believe includes the 5-hour demo you could play on EA Play. So it's not even people buying the game. So it has severely underperformed despite doing relatively well critically. So then Andy Wilson goes, essentially, he says, I'll grab the quote. I've got it nearby. Or I did, question mark. Where's it gone? Okay, I haven't got it anymore. But basically he says, I think it could have done better if it had more shared world aspects and basically was a live service. And of course, everyone who heard him said that went, you fucking what? Dragon Age? Who wants a live service Dragon Age? Bearing in mind,
But don't want live services full stop, not a live service Dragon Age.
Well, Dragon Age actually, Veilguard started as a live service.
I think they said that it was going to be live service.
Yes.
And
they dumped it.
it even like when you even look at the aesthetic in a way, you can kind of pick up on that.
Yeah.
Like, the way the graphical style is, it feels like it was meant to be live service.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like residual design elements that have remained from when they pivoted. Go on.
Side note, if I may ask, did either of you play Veilguard?
I have been watching people play it. I was considering it, and then I didn't.
My husband picked it up for me during the Steam sale because I was curious about it, but like morbidly curious. So I did decide to check it out privately. Let's just say I went back to Dragon Age Origins after.
Yeah.
It's quite it's really a shame. I'm sorry to say it. If you like anyone who likes Veilguard, it is not Dragon Age. That's all I have
It's woke nonsense, isn't it?
It's not about the woke nonsense. It's just the way it's presented to you. It just I was trying to look past. I wasn't very fond of the writing in general. But just everything about it felt very mediocre. It just kind of felt like it just didn't feel like the same game. And I saw someone call it like it was very similar like Marvel, like the Marvel universe. And it's like, yeah, I could kind of get that vibe, like very Guardians of the Galaxy, everyone's friends.
So I have a theory.
A lot of therapy talk.
So obviously they wanted a live service, they being EA. And then BioWare were like,
yeah, money.
Do you remember Anthem? Like we tried that.
I do remember Anthem.
We sucked at Anthem.
Very unfortunate. I remember Anthem because it's a very sore subject for mine.
Yeah, so
the money people over there.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine BioWare were like, "Here's Anthem. We sucked at trying to do that. Why are you trying to make us do it again with an IP that has a history of being a single-player CRPG, etc."
Also crazy is that, with the exception of, I guess the closest BioWare ever had to like a live service was they had the multiplayer in Mass Effect 3, which is great. It's fun as hell. But that was back when everybody had a multiplayer. But even so many games who didn't need a multiplayer had a multiplayer. That one's like the few rare exceptions that was actually pretty enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still live too, by the way, if you have the original PC version of Mass Effect 3. But the thing is that this is not a company that excelled at at multiplayer or anything live service. It was always single player. Everything was offline. And the only reason why that was online, that what multiplayer was existed, was at EA's insistence. That wouldn't have been a thing if it wasn't for EA.
So that's my theory. So I think they were like, we're not going to do live service. We tried that. It sucked. Why are you trying to make us do live service? And then EA's response to that was to basically make them do the next best, I say in air quotes, thing, which is a similar thing that Blizzard have done with Diablo 3 and Diablo 4. And that's make the game as mass marketable as possible.
Right.
So rather than having these like dark storylines and the more adult writing, they, for lack of a better word, dumbed it down.
It feels like a children's game, for sure. It's
a bit more PG-13. It's a bit more young adult, let's say. It's clearly aiming at a far younger audience, so it can sell as much as possible.
Not just the character designs. They do have this very Disney-fied look, but there was also this personal, like, this is what I know. So when I did, and I had some, one of my mods, they're not in my chat right now because they're working, but both him and I, we got in discussion about the character creator. One of the most baffling things about that character creator is like, you couldn't make like, so I like making hyper feminine characters. I like making super hot chicks. That's great. It's fun.
Yeah.
You know, you can't make a hyper feminine character in that game, like at all. Like they have all these sliders for different body parts. But like they have the ass slider that you still have a flat ass at the end, even at the way max. And same with the chest, where I was like, it was a really odd choice where I'm like, is that not marketable to have? I mean, obviously we know that is, and that's very standard in video games, but it was kind of a weird choice to remove that option where it's like, you're trying to make it how do I phrase this? Where it's like, so everyone feels inclusive. I meant to say inclusive. I couldn't think of a word. As inclusive as possible, but as at the choice of pushing away hyper femininity. And it was a very interesting decision because and also no matter what, I couldn't make my character like, and she always looked weird. Like I got her. Like I thought I got her, but like because the facial features are so exaggerated on every single race, like the nose and mouth area especially is very enlarged. That's where like that very Disney-esque where it's very cartoony. When she was in action, I was like, oh, she looks strange. Like what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Like there's weird shadows on her face.
It was a very particular aesthetic.
Yeah, and to be honest, I actually quite like the aesthetic of the new Dragon
That's
Age.
fair. Like, and I'm fine with people liking it. I personally didn't like it, but I also, when I think of Dragon Age, I always think Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite games. It's it's incredible.
About that game. Do not ask me about that game.
I don't like
it.
You know, like that's fine. That's fair. It's one of my favorites, and I always love the writing in it, and but the way the aesthetic was very hyper realistic.
Yeah.
So going back to Origins post Veilguard, because it made me when I played Veilguard, it made me want to play Origins again. I wanted to go back. Like I can't remember. Like I have to be reminded of like how dark that game actually originally was, and it is. Yeah. It is a very different game. And I would argue if they marketed it as anything other than Dragon Age, just the Veilguard, and just subtracted everything from Dragon Age, it wouldn't have gotten the amount of backlash it would have. But I don't know how well it would have sold. I mean, it didn't really sell that well. How well it would have sold anyway, because EA was relying on that Dragon Age brand recognition.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
it's a very complicated one, this one.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, they clearly made it so it was just mass marketable. It was aimed at a younger audience. It was a lot more easier on the eyes and things like that. You could definitely tell it was aiming at like the Pixar audience. You know what I mean?
For the record, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the execution wasn't great.
No, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with liking Pixar-like stuff, but it's such
nothing wrong with aiming your game. But with better execution, they could have reached both audiences.
The misstep was marketing it as a Dragon Age game when people have set expectations for what Dragon Age is. Yeah. If they marketed it as anything other than that, it could have it's a very basic very like I'm sorry, I hate using this word, but it is a very mediocre fantasy game. At the end of the day, it's an action RPG, and when you're playing it, like if you take that part that it's dragging Age out of your head, it could be anything. You can they could have done that. They could have done like their own like Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel Heroes esque, friendship simulator, as I've seen some people call it. And have like all these aspects, but it's also there's so many issues with the writing too.
Yes.
Like there's in the game, like when I was playing, I didn't get that far. I have to be very clear. I heard the ending was a lot better.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's very soft ball writing, I think is the best way to phrase it.
But the thing is, like the way they write is like it's a lot of exposition dumps because they got rid of the Dragon Age Keep. And which was so all of your decisions and everything from the past games they're not relevant anymore. The only decision you get to make that carries over, and I'm air quoting, is you get to design what the Inquisitor looks like from Dragon Age Inquisition, and if whether or not they romance Solus. Like that was the choice I had because I chose I made a female outfit because that's what mine was.
Yeah.
And she did romance Solus because he was bald and it sounded fun at the time. But but either way, like they took all those decisions out first off, and then, but they're presenting this project to you like you haven't played it or you don't know anything about it. So when you're in the first mission, I just want to outline this. You have Varric from Inquisition and Dragon Age 2, and there's a lot of saying the Veil, and they keep saying everything, like they keep repeating terms like they're in on something and trying to get you in on it, but not, instead of just show me, just show me what's going on.
Yeah.
It's very guilty of not listening to show don't tell. It's very much telling you. And then there's a part where Varric gets hurt. You go talk to him later, and sorry, it's not a spoiler, it's like really early on. He gets hurt, he's incapacitated for as my assumption is the rest of the game. Maybe until this point. And the conversation is just outlining what just happened.
Yeah.
Like you forgot, like you were in a coma.
A lot of the like there's not a lot of like confrontation between the companions as well. And I mean like real confrontation. There's no like let's go be a bad guy. You can't be mean. It's like even when the option is like, oh, you're a fucking idiot, you select that, and then the actual dialogue is, I don't think that was very smart. And it's just like, no, I said you're a fucking idiot. I want to call him a fucking idiot. Well, and it won't let you do stuff like that.
But it's also like, I remember when I was playing Origins, I went back and I was like, I just want to see how you can interact with your characters. And then I went up to Morrigan at one point, and then you actually have the choice of going, why are you here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she like tells she gives you her answer, and then she goes, and you have the base like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I don't want you here anymore. And you can do that to every character, I think, except Alistair and the dog. I think those are the only characters. Yeah. And then you have characters like Sten, oh my God, what are they? The Canary, and which looks radically different from I love seeing Sten compared to like the later games because he doesn't have horns or anything.
Yeah.
And like he's discussing their culture and their structure and how women where women's roles are, because my character is female. So he was explaining how I'm not supposed to be a warrior, women are not allowed this and that now, and I was just like, God damn, Stem, you judgmental asshole. But like that's literally like what that game was all about. It's like that they didn't worry too much about that. It's a fantasy, like obviously fantasy is going to still have their own politics and their own and not everyone's inclusive. The Canary clearly don't like women fighting.
Yeah. It allowed you, it gave you room to role play, basically, the original games. And then this one was just like, you're going to be a good guy whether you like it or not. And you're going to be living out these teenage fantasies, essentially, for the most part.
The character plays mediator a lot. Like, you'll see these scenes where some of your companions will have like a disagreement. And then your character comes in, goes like, well, what's the problem here? Why does this bother you? And what bothers you? And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. That's literally why I ended up not playing it.
Out of my house.
Yeah. But basically, to summarize, there were things wrong with Veilguard. I think it's very fair to say that, but it wasn't because it wasn't a live service.
No,
it wasn't because people want shared worlds.
There's
behind the curtain, the reason he's saying it should have been a live service is because it only
and that's not at all the case.
a certain amount of units.
It shows
and
that
he's
the
like,
game.
I can milk more money from that people if this was a live service.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the only reason.
And the thing with it is, it's so dishonest for them to say that it's just because it wasn't a live service. It's like, listen, there are a lot of flaws in that game. And I think a lot of the criticism that are not anti-woke and you can have like criticisms about like some of the modern terminology, the therapy speak, like there's a lot of that. And the way certain conflicts like between the characters are handled in a very patronizing way. You can have conversations like that without it being like, F woke, it's that or
I saw that was relating to that was like, I'm gonna hit you on the hammer so you understand the message.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is you can argue it lacks subtlety. The writing doesn't respect the audience. Like that was how I feel. It's like respecting the audience is very important. Like you don't want your game to treat you like you're an idiot.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
And the gameplay choices and like the puzzles are so simplified.
Oh
and
my god, the puzzles!
Yeah, I know.
The fucking puzzles.
The fucking puzzles. Hey, one of the shields is missing. It's like that. It doesn't show respect to you as a player.
Yeah.
And then you have all this skill tree. At first, I was like kind of impressed by it. It's like, oh, it looks like they're trying to take after Path of Exile. But it doesn't mean anything at the end. Like none of it that matters. Like you characters still have the same skills over and over. You don't really see, at least as far as I was aware, see much of a power improvement. There's just so much that's just other games have done it so much better that instead you should just go play a different game. Go play Baldur's Gate if you want to do play an RPG with all, and have these character interactions and character building. And you want to do like something with a skill tree, the ARPG, like go play Path of Exile or something that has more depth, that's more rich, and there's more depth into the mechanics. There's just so many more games around that everything that they attempt to do has been done better. And there's no point in spending that much money or that time and when you could just be paying it towards something that's a lot better. And I hate saying that because a lot of people worked on the game, and I don't ever like, and we don't know the parameters around what was going on fully as to what some of the decisions were made, why certain decisions were made. But that's something that
play devil's advocate with the elephant in the room here.
Okay.
What if BioWare have lost it?
Well, BioWare isn't really BioWare. Right
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I agree. 100%.
Gone.
And I'm trying to be kind to the people who worked on the game by not. We don't know what kind of pressures were being put on them from EA, what the parameters around their decisions to make things more marketable. And who knows?
This is fully subjective. I think it's
subjective. But the thing is with art and the fact that it is subjective is people are well within their right to not like it. And and so the decision by EA to be so defensive and also put forth that it's been selling better than it is, or make excuses that it's not a live service is disingenuous, where it's like, no, you're not showing respect to your audience that's saying, hey, we don't like this because we don't think this is a good product. And they make excuses by, well, probably because it would have been better as a live service.
Yeah, I think, yes, we undoubtedly, a lot of the original devs from the previous games have left, without a doubt. Like the last game was 2012, I want to say, and it won Game of the Year, might I add. But
and then there was Andromeda was after.
Yeah, and then their next three games were flops, basically.
Yeah.
But
Andromeda, Anthem, and now Veilguard.
With that in mind, I think it's still very obvious what EA wanted them to do by the design decisions they made. Like literally everything they have done, they've clearly targeted a younger audience. Why do you target a younger audience? Because it's a bigger audience. They've made the game far simpler. Why do you do that? So it's more accessible by a wider audience. They've basically done every single decision That is Game Dev 101. That makes the game available to as many players as possible so you can sell it to as many people as possible.
And yeah, and exactly. And the problem with that,
there are dev teams that could do that. I have no doubt there are dev teams that can work to a strict
there are
box, and they could
and we've
produce
seen
magic from that.
We've seen examples of that.
Yeah, there absolutely are. Diablo 3 is one of them. It was one of the best-selling games in the world. However, that actually pissed off the core audience of Diablo because they went from having all this depth to having no depth. And likewise with Diablo 4, there's still this lack of depth. And they've, especially with the live service model, because that's what people expect in the action RPG space, is to crawl back this depth. Whereas with Dragon Age, they've made this relatively adult game, for lack of a better phrase, with all this depth in the writing.
Dark when it first came out. Like that was the selling point for Dragon Age Origins, was we had, because you already had Baldur's Gate and all these like Neverwinter Nights and all these games very similar to because of their play style. But you didn't have one that went that dark sometimes, where like just the opening prologue stories were just like handling things like sex trafficking in one of them. It's like not pleasant settings.
So you've got this core audience that had these previous 3 games that are far more adult and are done and framed in a certain way, and then this new game is such a detachment from that, and it just feels like it's been thrown in the face, where they go, this isn't the game we asked for, this isn't the franchise we know and love, this is something else. And the audience has clearly reacted to that by either playing the demo and going, nope, this is shit, or just not getting the game altogether.
Yeah. And I've seen people who are completely separate from like the gaming news space, and they don't pay attention to some of these reviewers, and they just played the game because they like Dragon Age. They're fans of Dragon Age. And even they were disappointed by it. And that's exactly what it is where EA's biggest misstep in this. And I don't know who worked at BioWare also, but we're just going to put the blame on EA because it's better. Is that when you make a game like this, and this goes with like 343 with Halo, like any game that has a dedicated fan base that's already pre-existing, when you alienate that fan base by trying to change things because you don't think that's marketable enough, so you can't bring in more people. Where it's like you take it, Diablo, like someone mentioned Diablo Immortal, and like, but things like that, like the point is that that's not what made the game successful. We're just going to stick with Dragon Age, and I'm going to keep going back to Dragon Age Origins and Inquisition because 2 is kind of its black sheep. It has that mixed reaction, and I've always said that Dragon Age has a bit of an identity crisis in general. Like the whole series has. Every game is so radically different from the former, and Veilguard is absolutely like the complete outlier now, because at least the other 3 still kind of felt.
It was more mechanically though, like the story and writing and vibe was the same with the previous games. It was more of just like, oh, this one's more CRPG combat, and then this one's a bit more slightly action. And whereas Veilguard was like,
Dragon Age
nope.
2, Dragon Age 2, it was very clear that EA saw this success in Mass Effect and wanted to replicate that, and that didn't work because you couldn't change your race. You were always Hawk. The conversation wheel was there. Everything was just so very explicitly Mass Effect inspired. And I don't
think the more stipulations you put on a team who are creating, it's going to stifle creativity. So that's probably why. I assume a bunch of BioWare have moved away on their own accord because of the way it was going.
Yeah.
And now it's been, let's not say gutted, but it's half the size.
That's actually the right way I would put it.
And then the people who are there, if they've still got all these stipulations from the way up, like, do they even have room to be creative outside of you have to do this? And then
also,
are they not creating the magic anymore because of EA's like immediate like fingers in the pie, or is it just over time they've just gone and it's disappeared?
No, I would say yes, you're right, because when you look at older BioWare's hits, like the start where they started, and the games that really catapulted them to the success that they formerly saw. I'm sorry, I can't say currently, but that did drive EA to take notice of them and to acquire them. Mass Effect and Dragon Age Origins were made, and there were obviously Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Did they do Neverwinter Nights? Who did that? I don't know. Either way, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. All these games that they did where they had full creative freedom. And that's what made those games successful, is that they were able to take these risks and they gained the fan base that they have to this day. Because I would say that there's still Dragon Age fans they're still fans of Dragon Age, just they don't like this new entry, and that's fair to say. And that doesn't make you not a fan. And I love Jade Empire. That's a great choice too, but that one wasn't popular. I'm talking about the ones that made them popular. Sorry, I saw in chat, like, everyone forgets about Jade Empire. Wonderful game. It got it did not get a lot of publicity though. I was talking about that the other day. But when you look back at those older games, with Mass Effect that was a small team. That was a tiny team that worked on that, and look at the success that it achieved. But then you look at once after it, you could see where EA's influence took hold and how it stifled them creatively.
I imagine EA have gotten a lot more stricter with the noose as well, with each consecutive failure. And I think slightly moving on from Dragon Age, it's in stark contrast to a game that recently released, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, who made up all of their budget in day one. And they stuck to their guns.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they've
Are you shitting me?
Yeah,
is that true?
Over 1 million sales on day one.
Wow, good for them.
So like Kingdom Come Deliverance have clearly stuck to their formula, where EA have clearly had far less of a no, you got to do this, you got to do that, and in contrast, they've stuck to what they know, what their audience likes, and they've made a very successful game out of it. And who knows where it's going to go from here.
Kingdom Come Deliverance as well. That's a grower, not a shower, because it came out and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like the first game definitely had a rocky start.
That's a good way of putting it. It's a grower, not a shower.
It is, right?
Yeah.
No, you're right. I didn't expect that.
Sorry.
No, that's a great way of putting it, because like that's kind of a sleeper. That's a sleeper hit, because like I knew about the first one. I never played it, but I knew about it, and it always had that fan base there.
It is so intricately crafted that I think when people start playing it and getting the vibe, and they're like, oh, and there's this, and there's so much.
It's also
in that game
hyper realistic, right, Peachy?
The more you play it, the more you're like, ooh. So it just grows, and then you'll tell people, and more people will buy it. So I assume the same with this will upward trajectory.
But isn't it also hyper realistic?
Kind of.
Okay.
A bit of the conceit there. Like there is a lot of realism going on there. Obviously, it's a video game, so it's not. There's video gamey stuff in it, but
it's immersive.
It's immersive. It's everything you do in it is quite deliberate. It's not immediate. Hit the thing, explode the piñata kind of deal. It's not that kind of game, but it was definitely a sleeper.
But it's definitely it like they had the creative freedom, and and you get in comparison. That's where
it is actually uncompromising in every aspect. There is frustrating things about the game. You're like, well, they made this decision to do this. Like whoever's vision that is,
the vision.
Be it one person, be it
the vision.
Whoever's vision has come out in that game, and it did well. So I assume this will be the same. I've not played it. I've not watched anything yet because I would like to play it.
Yeah, I've been hearing very good things about it. Another weird contrast, or a weird pivot compared to previous EA, is Battlefield are now doing Battlefield Labs for the next Battlefield game. Because obviously Battlefield 2042 didn't do that great. It
was made on a shoestring by about 7 people.
And they also changed so much about it compared to previous
the reason they did
games.
that is because it was made on a shoestring budget by 7 people.
Yeah, I mean...
you have to make some decisions, go, okay, we need to just fold this down and fit this here.
I don't know, because there was actual...
working on it since release, though. but it still hasn't got people back. Everyone's playing the old ones still.
Yeah, but there were some like design decisions, not that I would put in scope of like, oh, we haven't got the manpower to make that stuff, but like the way they went from like the weird class system to like the operating system, like a la Overwatch, stuff like that. I think they removed the score screen. Wasn't that a thing that they had to re-add eventually?
There was no score screen for a bit. Yeah,
there was like loads of really weird stuff. Yeah, there was loads of really weird decisions that they made that the community were like, why are you doing that? Whereas with this new game, which is very, I'm somewhat conflicted on it, because in one way I'm like, yes, this is how you're going to end up getting out a really, really good game, and that's by doing this. Essentially, you can apply to be a beta tester, and you sign an NDA, and you'll have big input, and they're putting a lot of effort into listening to the players pre-release, and that's very unusual because usually big AAA developers are scared of cannibalizing their consumers with giving them beta access, and then be like, oh no, we can't sell the game to them if they decide not to like it like later down the line, that sort of thing. So they usually avoid that. So it is really weird that they're doing it, but it is a good thing. But the reason I'm conflicted is like, well, shouldn't you be testing your game properly yourself, you silly twats? You're $1 billion company. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'm a little conflicted, because like I could understand that, especially with an indie game, like with say Last Epoch, they did closed betas and stuff like that. Even Path of Exile, they've gone into early access and stuff like that. Whereas this is an EA property, and they're going,
can I just
can we get all the people?
I'm very glad that we've kept the CEO's face this whole time while we've been having this conversation. I just noticed it.
Yeah. No, that's not the CEO anymore. That's the villain from us. From
correct. It is the
I just looked over and I was like, oh my god, has he been staring this whole time?
I don't click away. I'm scared if I do, he'll just appear out of my monitor and stab me.
Lisa, where no matter where you turn your face,
it just follows you.
He's looking at you.
If you look away for a second, he will come into your life and try and monetize it.
Oh my god.
He will.
He will make your life a live service.
A life service.
A life service.
For sure.
Oh
god. Yeah, it's EA. We've spoken about how EA seem to like be on the seesaw of fuckery, where it's like, hey, here's a little really cool, good things, consumer-friendly things. By the way, did you hear about that time we've been assholes? And it's just like, behave yourselves. And it's such a shame, especially with what's happening with
BioWare. They can't help
themselves,
man. They're just trying to make money. They're trying to squeeze it out of their consumer as much as possible. And I know, go back to us. And I know now with just to touch back on Veilguard, but they have announced that they're abandoning. There's no DLC coming out for it. Everyone is going straight.
It's dead.
It's dead. The game's dead.
It's dead.
And I know they're going to be. They've announced that there's no DLC, and which obviously is a bad sign, because they did the same thing with is it Anthem? Or I'm thinking of a different game.
Anthem was supposed to have a
Andromeda.
2.0.
Andromeda.
Yeah.
They did that with Andromeda. They when it didn't do well, they were like, no DLC, bye. But they're also taking everybody who worked on Veilguard, every single person at BioWare, and shoved them on a Mass Effect 5.
Yeah.
So that doesn't. That sounds like a Hail Mary. I think this is their last.
What have you got the letter, Bryan?
The letter?
Oh yes. Do you have the letter?
The letter?
Where they did everything they could not to say they are downsizing.
Oh, sorry, no, I haven't got it to hand.
That is that is writing ninjutsu. That is PR ninjutsu right there. And also,
sorry, I was going to say,
is that the same announcement where they said that Veilguard reached, not sold, reached
engaged.
1.5 engaged. Sorry, thank you.
That's what I was saying earlier. Yeah. They got 1.5 million engagements. 1.5
million people. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So and that's what I was saying earlier. That could include the people playing the 5-hour demo, and EA.
It also could mean like if my copy, like Kevin played it on another account.
Yeah.
Like even that, like that could mean anything.
Yeah. 100%.
It's so funny.
There was a announcement for the Switch 2.
Oh, thank you, Peachy.
Well, was there?
Yeah, they announced it. It exists. It's coming.
Yeah,
we didn't get much info about it. However, we did get some patents, and they've got me feeling things. You know, I don't know. I don't know about if the patent has got you feeling things.
$4.99 per reload.
Not quite.
Or good
No,
tech
like
patterns?
I'm here to show you a good time after a kebab, maybe that kind of pattern.
Ooh,
It's on
I'm gonna
screen.
need
What
a
is
good time after a
that?
fucking kebab.
That's the Joy-Con being used as a mouse.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that was in the video.
They alluded
what is
to it.
that?
Yeah. So
Wow,
you can
they alluded to it by showing you being a mouse.
well, no, because there was no hand on it. It was just sliding around, and
There were
people.
no hands in the game, but there was no hands on the joysticks. You know what they do.
Yeah, but the only reason you were able to make that connection is because everyone knew about the leaks saying that they might be mice in the first place. Otherwise, it was just two Joy-Cons
I
sliding
didn't
around.
hear about that.
Oh, I don't believe you. But yeah, anyway, so like that's the pattern that's confirming that it has definitely got mouse, because obviously even during the announcement, people were like, so is that confirming the leaks? Do we know? Do we not? Kind of thing. We're going to find out a lot more in April on the 2nd, I want to say.
It's got a nice screen.
It's got it's still not, I don't think it's OLED this time around again.
Not OLED, but they've
don't
already
think so.
done.
They
OLED
did the OLED, and I think that to have the bigger screen, they're not done OLED, so it probably to do with battery power. It's not that much different. There's been a couple of games like hinted at as well. Like we think there's going to be a new Mario Kart. Again, that wasn't exclusively said.
It does kind of look like a Switch Pro.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. And to be fair, kind of okay with that. Like,
Yeah, no, I prefer this to a Pro version because it's a whole new console, right? It's a whole new generation of console rather than going, oh no, we'll just do a little upgrade like that. One of the main reasons for buying a console used to be you bought the console and you played it, and then they released a new one. It's not none of that PC where you've got to keep upgrading and upgrading, and then consoles have kind of turned into that. But you don't upgrade a single part; you upgrade the entire thing.
Yeah.
And it always felt a little bit like, I don't know. I would prefer, instead of going to a Pro. I guess they did that with the OLED though.
Yeah, and the smaller ones as well. I can't remember what they called the
But
smaller ones.
it wasn't like
Switch Lite?
It wasn't like games on that one that wouldn't run on the other one.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, it wasn't quite that leap, was it? It was a much nicer screen with a bit more breathing space on the processor, right? Or the graphical.
I'm pretty sure it was just literally the OLED, to be honest, mate.
It was just the OLED. Was there a chip then to run the OLED or something? It was so long ago, I cannot remember.
Potentially, I can't remember the exact details. I can tell you that the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible, though.
Yes,
They
that
did-
was great.
they did
That's cool.
Asterisk it, but I think a lot of people are just assuming it's the Labo stuff and like things that require specific hardware.
I assume they're asterixing it because there's always going to be an outlier, and they don't want to get sued, considering how litigious Nintendo are.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, you look like you want to say something, Paul.
Nope, I just noticed how dark my camera got.
Oh yeah.
I just assumed the light was turned off, or like.
No, so just to give everyone a little bit of context about my room that I'm in, we're getting a lot of snow, so there's a lot of clouds. So usually I have the window open, but because there was so much snow bouncing back at the light on me, I had to close the window.
Right.
So I'm assuming a cloud went over, and now this is how dark it gets. So I now need to open my window again, but I'm not going to do it. But now I hope you appreciate this mood lighting. It's very nice. It makes me look really good.
Fair. Yeah, so the pattern looks like it's, as someone alluded to in your chat, like some kind of fingering thing. When I first saw it, I was like, what's going on here?
That's exactly what that pattern looks like. It's like, see, now the cloud's gone.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's very odd.
Yeah. The click commander. But we're gonna go to break. We'll be back in around about 5 to 10 minutes. Mics will be hot as usual, and then we'll be discussing what games we have been playing in the second half.
How exciting!
See you shortly.
Maybe I should close the blinds again.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Blind Closing Podcast. We are in part 2. What?
Whatever.
It's fine. It's fine. You look wonderful. It's absolutely
like
fine.
A goddess.
It's absolutely magical.
Proper lighting is very important, Peachy.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
It's incredibly important. Everything about it's the most important thing in the world. Peachy just
You don't even know. You look so young. Proper lighting makes everything.
True and real.
It does.
So
that's why everyone looks better by candlelight.
In the first half, we were talking about how Andy Wilson is a complete tosspot, as we might say here in the UK. Bryan's dishwasher, for thinking that Veilguard would be better as a live service and how redonkulous that would be. Peachy's been playing Marvel Rivals.
A live service.
A live service. How have you been finding it?
Service.
Okay. Let's talk about the game and the gameplay. Let's talk about the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. It's pretty good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. It's people are like, "Oh, Overwatch," and I'm like, "Just watch one movie that isn't Boss Baby." I swear to God. It's a MOBA. It is a MOBA, and some of them do shoot. But it's really fun. It's all Marvel IP. And it's their own designs, it's their own takes on the character. They all fit together aesthetically. It's got like this pseudo cartoon look. It's not quite, it's a bit more realistic than that, but they've all got like not cell shading, you know, with the outlines and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it looks really cool. It's great. It plays. It's really responsive and quick, and it's very flashy. It like maybe too flashy sometimes. Like if you're trying to get by just looking what's on your screen, you might get a little confused sometimes.
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of audio stuff in there as well that helps you understand what's happening, and there are some nice UI elements that let you know where you're at in your combat and things like that. It's good, and I think the characters, the way that they've done sort of like their abilities and how they move and how they interact with the world and other heroes is done really well. I think that's really good.
You were saying earlier that the designs they've kind of done their own. My understanding is that they are genuine like comic book versions of like said characters.
They look like comic book versions. They're not necessarily taken wholesale from comics though.
Right.
There are design cues that they've obviously paid attention to comics. For their basic designs, their original vanilla designs. It's not the MCU. You know what I mean? It's not stuff that we know from movies and the TV shows, of which I know there are a lot, and I've watched none of them. Stuff like that isn't really a thing, but a lot of cues that might have been introduced, like story beat wise and backstory wise, have been informed by the MCU for sure. And they've got skins which are straight up, here's the Marvel skin. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's its own thing. They haven't just gone MCU. There you go. It all looks like you remember, and that's Steve Rogers. It's they've done their own thing, which I think is a good idea because Marvel kind of lost its steam. Like it was going for a while. It did well.
So
they had a pretty long run. Let's give them credit though. Like they're not hurting.
I think with the MCU, I think that's more of fatigue, and new people coming into it are probably going to feel the same way we do.
It's very
about
for newcomers. Like, it's very overwhelming.
True. Well, that's probably why they had a bit of a reset as well. Like it gives an opportunity for the new people to come in. Going back to the skins. So my understanding was, because obviously I don't read comics, but I've got a lot of comic book nerd friends, and like there's, as referenced in Deadpool and Wolverine, there's like 20 different versions of Wolverine in the comics, like 20 different like storylines. So I knew they weren't really going with movie versions. So my understanding was they were doing the various versions that you can get in the comics, or the alternatives.
Yeah, so they are taking like that type of Wolverine and this type of Wolverine and like putting them into the game. It's still in the old style. It's not like they've just taken it from somewhere else and it stands out. It all fits together. So they're definitely taking, we want to get this from the comic, but in our game. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think the artists have done a great job. I really do. And there are, for people who are into the movies more than the comic books, which I think there are more people into Marvel because of the movies, because it was such a juggernaut.
Yeah, 100%.
There's still that there for you. Like there's the Wolverine skin they put in the game. I'm not sure where it's from. It looks a bit 90s. I'm not entirely sure which they've taken inspiration from for that. But they've got the Deadpool skin, which is a banging skin. And I mean that took from comics as well, but that's a really good skin that's in there. They've got like the Spider-Man skin where the one with the gold spidery bits, I forget what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
That skin's it.
I don't
They've
know.
got a bunch of stuff from there. But it definitely feels like its own thing. And the skins are kind of like, hey, remember this kind of thing, but it still fits in our universe. The Iron Spider, thank you very much. It's good. It's really good. There are 4 different currencies.
Yeah, live service, mate.
I could maybe be pushed to say, actually, there are 5 because there's an XP thing as well. But it's annoying.
Yeah.
But it is free.
It is free.
That's true. It is free.
It's free, and I do find it a little bit hard to be like, oh my god, look at this monetization when the game and all the heroes are given to you for free.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Peachy. Like I can't complain about monetization, like loot box or whatever in a free game. Like that's at that point it's like they gotta make their money somehow. And people are gonna pay for it.
Complain about the amount of currency though. That's so much.
Okay, that's fair. I haven't played Marvel Rivals, so I don't know how bad it is.
It's fine. It's like I say it's fine. We've all been worn down by mobile gaming. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Just maybe one currency is fine, and maybe don't even have that. Just money, and maybe give me a currency that I can collect and turn into money. Like maybe 2, but 4 is pushing it for me.
May I ask a question, Peachy? Since
yes.
you are the expert. So
I'm not an expert.
I'm kidding. But so, for your opinion, with the monetization, is it free? Is it pay to win, or is it just
no.
It's just cosmetics.
It's just skins. It's
okay. That's that I'm okay with. That I have no issue with. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
To explain a little bit why Peachy probably has an issue with the currencies, the entire point of having in-game currency is to obfuscate how much you're actually spending.
That's fair, and that's a fair criticism, absolutely. But I do feel, you can make that criticism, but as long as with the monetization, it doesn't impact your gaming experience. Like you can't get ahead, like Star Wars Battlefield.
You can't get ahead unless there's like a skin that is maybe the animations are a bit over the top and it's hard to understand.
Okay, yeah, and the thing is, like those things like that, they have their audience. There are people that they're all about their skins. They love their cosmetics, and that's awesome.
They're important to me for sure. Like
for sure.
Cosmetics, I'm like, damn, I want that, but it's too expensive.
But I like that the game doesn't sound like you have to pay any money into it.
You can absolutely just install it,
and that's great.
That's
a wonderful thing.
Nobody wants to play base skin Wolverine. Nobody wants that. You don't want that. But it's cannon size, which is great. And the Hulk can, I think Groot can as well. But you can. There's this really cool mechanic called team up mechanics, and apparently it's going to be different every season. They just make these new team up mechanics. So you might get a flat buff with damage, or it might augment some of your skills. Or with like the Hulk and Wolverine, you can both click OK, and the Hulk can hold Wolverine in his hand, and Wolverine's like, I'm ready, I'm ready. And then the Hulk can throw him. And that's busted because you get this dive, which gives him rage. And it's a very powerful mechanic. But yeah, a lot of the characters have these team up things. If you have some of the Guardians of the Galaxy together, you can get a different thing. There's one with Rocket Raccoon with like anyone with a gun, basically. He's like, nice gun, now it's better.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Some of them do seem broken. They're very, very powerful. Let me say very powerful. I don't think anyone's particularly broken in that game. Maybe some tweaks could be done, but nothing's like, oh yeah, no, you need to stop that right now.
Yeah. Not even Jeff.
I'd never heard of Jeff before, and
So-
everyone's talking about Jeff, and I'm like, who the fuck is Jeff? I'm bored of Jeff, and then I played the game, and he's a cool character. I kind of like him.
Yeah, so for
I
a bit-
understand why people are fucking like just foaming over him.
Yeah, so a bit of context for those not familiar. I wouldn't say it was an overpowered mechanic, but it's definitely a frustrating one. Jeff is like this little like land shark, and his ultimate is basically he does a whirlpool, pulls everyone in the radius of his whirlpool into him, and then he can just suicide off a cliff and take you all with him. So he can basically just team wipe everyone, and that was a very popular move. Also, yeah, he can spit you out and like spit you over walls and stuff. I believe they have changed it because before he didn't get the credit for the kills, and then they changed it so he did, so more people started doing it. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was broken or anything like that, but
allies with it and protect them from damage. Having played Jeff quite a few times now, because I've been trying to play a bunch of the characters, that ultimate isn't the easiest thing to pull off well, and when a Jeff pulls it off and gets a team wipe, that is, you played that very well. That's not like 100%. Oh, you lucky bastard. That is like, oh, you played that well.
Yeah, 100%. Going back on something you said earlier, though, I can appreciate how some people, like, in a way, at first glance, I would say it is an Overwatch clone, but I don't necessarily think that's to its detriment. And I think it has absolutely pulled people from Overwatch who were missing what they used to feel about Overwatch 1. And there are a lot of elements of the game that are pretty much exactly the same. Like the UI is like, I'm actually genuinely surprised that Blizzard haven't been like, do we need to lawyer up when it comes to things like the UI and stuff? Although there is one thing that we've just been talking about.
Great. It's okay. It's functional. It works.
Oh no, but like it is pretty much 1-for-1 for Overwatch's UI is what I'm saying. But one thing they have leaned into that Overwatch didn't lean into, in fact did the opposite. Do you remember when Tracer in Overwatch 1 used to have a emote where she'd just turn around and stand there, and then some person complained that his son could see Tracer's booty and it was over sexualized, and then after that, despite Overwatch doing so well, arguably because of Rule 34, they tried to get away from that. Whereas it feels like Marvel Rivals are leaning into that, because some of those skins, mate, they can be very thirsty. And some of those designs, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
I'm going to say you might be imprinting a little bit on that, because it's fine. I don't think there's anything like that.
I've seen lots of commentary on that.
That's always been a draw of superheroes.
Yeah, like superheroes.
Even Henry Cavill.
No, I know that, but like what I'm saying is like Overwatch specifically leaned away from that to get away from that. Whereas Marvel are like, here's our sexy, thirsty skins. Here's some booty. Here's like, we've literally modeled these people from hot people who've literally been like, yeah, that's my butt kind of thing, stuff like that. And I think they are genuinely leaning into it.
You're gonna be looking at their butt all the time.
Yeah, but
comparing butts between two characters, Invisible Girl and a character that I don't really know that's two characters at once, and I can't remember her name. Whatever. And we were rating butts. But it turns out that Venom has the juiciest butt of them all, so they kind of lost.
Naturally.
Yeah,
Venom's great. Venom is great fun.
I wouldn't be surprised though if they're actually like, look what Rule 34 did for Overwatch. Let's see what it can do for us. Like, I genuinely think that is a consideration.
I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like from the game, it's not hypersexualized at all.
No,
I don't get the vibe of hypersexualized, and I've seen some gacha games.
With with comic books, like there is hypersexualization, like for sure, but like that's also, I don't know, because like from what I've seen of Marvel Rivals, it doesn't look hypersexualized at all. I mean, they're superheroes.
They are in spandex, like
yeah, they're all wearing spandex. So it would be shocking that there wasn't at least, you're gonna see a lot of tush
with jiggle physics.
Hey man, I'm not going to do much jiggle physics.
The jiggle physics is up.
In the butt as well, not just titty. Like it's there in the butt as well. Like I'm not saying like it's over sexualized. Again, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying
jiggle physics. Let's just put it that way. It doesn't matter what you put it on.
You'd be surprised. An indie game got completely dunked on the other day. I said the other day, it was a couple of months ago, because they literally asked what would be appropriate jiggle physics, and it was supposed to be a comfy game, like a farming thing. like Stardew Valley, and it got completely ripped into because people thought they were trying to make a sexual thing about it, and it was just like, no, they genuinely are asking what is an appropriate amount for realism's sake, and they got completely.
By the way,
Yeah.
It's like,
They got completely
like,
shot. It was so stupid.
Sidetrack, but just because we're talking about jiggle physics, it's like when I played Final Fantasy Remake the first time, and what's his face, Corneo. I was like, they put jiggle physics on his like gut, and I was like, oh my god, it's great. I love it.
It's not
It's
dead
so
or alive.
gross.
Not dead or alive beach volleyball jiggle physics.
Oh my god. Okay, I unironically love that game. It's I loved collecting the swimsuits. I love playing the volleyball. It was so simple, but it is absolutely hypersexualized. But I love the shit out of that game. I can't help myself. Something about collecting all the outfits did something for me as a kid. I think it had a little bit of a combination of like it was fun to play, and I also loved Barbie dolls.
100%. So, would you recommend it?
It's not for everyone. It's a MOBA. It's a MOBA. Everyone is saying it's Overwatch. Overwatch took MOBA stuff and put it into a shooter. Watch any movie that isn't Boss Baby, okay? Big Boss Baby vibes from you over there. No, it's good. It's low skill floor MOBA, but a lot of the characters have quite a high skill ceiling. You will play a character and go, this character sucks. And then you'll play them 20 times and go, oh, hang on a minute.
And I appreciate that you are honest about just straight up, it's a MOBA. And I've talked about what was Deadlock, where I didn't enjoy Deadlock. I don't like MOBAs. I've learned that was the game that taught me I don't like MOBAs. And that's fair. So you saying like, I've been curious about Marvel Rivals, and the fact that it's free, but if you don't like MOBAs, you're not gonna like MOBAs. You know?
It's a very accessible one for sure. It's not Dota, it's not even League. It's not even Deadlock. Like you don't buy stuff in the shop or things like that, and you don't farm lanes.
Did you like Overwatch, Peachy? Pulp?
No.
No. Okay. Then you won't like it because
I'm just like very, very explicit about this. I learned like I just touched and go with MOBAs, but I tried to put when Deadlock was everyone was playing that at the time. That was when I was like, I want to like see, like give it a fair shake. And I just realized I did not enjoy it. I like a few times I was playing with Kevin, my husband, and I was like, I just don't like this game, man. I have to be honest. It's not for me.
That, if you want to use the hero shooter thing, which is valid, that is the thinking man's hero shooter because it's got a lot more MOBA than
for sure.
Overwatch.
But I mean, I respect that you're to at least being explicit that it is a MOBA because that's all I need to hear. Be like,
yeah, all your abilities are there. Like some characters, their left click is an ability, their right click is an ability. There are characters that just shoot with guns. Is it the Punisher? The Punisher's every single one of the Punisher's abilities, which I didn't like it playing it. I find it boring, but it's really good for how they've tied it in with the character. Every single one of his abilities is a different gun. And you can switch to a shock. Oh, I want a shock. I want to sit on the gun now. I want rocket launchers and guns attached to me when I push my ultimate button. It's a lot of fun, and you can play it for free. But if you want to play Wolverine, you're going to have to buy a skin because I'm really not a fan of the base skin. It's fine. I'm not like, oh, what have they done to Wolverine? He looks like Wolverine. He's cannon height, which I appreciate as a short king myself.
I'm going to give it a go eventually. I've just been inundated
I'd have
with everything else.
Try it like once, but I already think I'm not gonna like it.
One other thing before we move on to someone else, one other thing I've been playing is Project Zomboid, and I recently hit 500 hours in Project Zomboid.
I was gonna ask actually, when are you not playing Project Zomboid?
Next week I'm playing 7 Days to Die.
No, it's funny. I respect the grind, Peachy. It's my favorite thing about you.
It's a banger of a game. This new update is incredible.
I'd have to give it another shot. Like I think the last time I played, I was way too drunk to understand what I was playing.
Fair.
That's a vibe.
Even when I'm sober, I feel like I'm far too drunk to understand what I'm playing when I'm playing Zomboid.
For those who don't know, I'm 436 days sober. I don't drink anymore. I used to game and stream hammered, and games were very difficult. It's funny to go back to games that I was like, oh my God, this is so much easier.
And that is why you can't find episode 12 of the podcast on the YouTube. But games, Pulp. Speaking of you playing games, you've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk.
Oh my God. Okay. I've been playing. Okay. So let me put this. So the way I had to explain this, I've never, this whole time, I hadn't touched the DLC. The last time I played it, unfortunately, that last statement was very relevant. I played it when I was still drinking, and I didn't get that far in it.
Tell me what game you were playing. You haven't said it.
Oh, I'm playing. Oh, I heard you say Cyberpunk already.
Yeah, I said Cyberpunk.
He did say Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I've been playing Cyberpunk again, and I always loved Cyberpunk. Even day one launch, Peachy and I bonded over this. I've loved Cyberpunk since the beginning.
I bought the chair, dude. I love Cyberpunk.
Yeah, so I played. So this is actually my third playthrough, my third character. My first one was I played Nomad. I did a full melee blunt weapon run. And I think I took out Adam Special in like 30 seconds. But this was before they changed all the perk system and added all these new things. So the last time I actually played the game, I remember, was when the DLC played. The DLC I played a little bit of it, but I did remember when they updated the perk system. I went in and I was like, oh, I have to redo this shit. Fuck it, and I just turned off the game. I just didn't want to. I wasn't in the mood.
And you can my second prologue now.
Well, no, well, I like. So what I did this time, I did my Corpo run was my second time, which I did fully on stream, and then this time I went full Netrunner, and because I love Netrunner, it's so fun, and this was my Street Kid playthrough, and I decided I'm gonna play through the DLC. But I want to play this authentically. I want to go from the beginning. I want to experience the game from the very beginning, get my build to where I want it to be, and then get to kind of play as like not full completionist, but just play through it.
I can't watch Jackie die again for like the 12th time.
It's fine.
I hate they spoiled that in the trailer before it came out.
Oh
I actually hated that. Sorry, continue.
So no, it's fine. I don't mind watching him die again. So I finally got to the DLC. Like the last week, I think I've been playing just strictly going through everything. And I just got 2 nights ago. I went one path where I sided with. Spoilers are fine, right? Because it's 2 years now. Right?
Yeah, be right.
All right. So I sided with Songbird two days ago, and then yesterday I sided with Reed. So I wanted, because before the DLC came out, I fully platinumed the game. Like I wanted to platinum the game before, and then they took my platinum away because the DLC came with achievements. So I've also been achievement hunting. So I just platinumed it yesterday, and again, finally. And man, dude, I've been like, I could sing praises about Cyberpunk all day long. I played it when it first came out, when it was still buggy. I loved it then still. It's still buggy. Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect. So
it's nowhere near as buggy though.
No, it's nowhere near as buggy. My car got stuck though the other day. So and there's a couple times where like I've had to redo gigs or redo a fight, and which unfortunately my build right now is I've been playing on very hard as well. She is very buggy. She is very squishy. She dies very easily. So firefights, which when I was doing the Songbird path at the spaceport, there's like just two sections where it's just really so many guys, so many dudes on her, and I'm like, I am not built for this.
Too many men, many men.
Way too many men.
Right.
And I have to like start getting creative, and unfortunately, like I wanted to just do only monowire and only cyberware, but unfortunately I had to pull out a gun every now and again. But I can't, like, I already liked the game before playing the DLC, and now that the game has been patched to the point that it's at,
man, dude, that game should have been in the oven a little bit longer because it absolutely would have won Game of the Year when it came out. Or if 2 years, I think 2 years in the oven. Just get that, let it simmer, you know? Because I cannot sing enough praise. Like I already liked Cyberpunk, but playing through the DLC, it's one of the best DLCs I played in a long time. Like I love
Idris Elba is fucking brilliant in it.
What's that?
Idris Elba.
Oh my god, I could listen to that man talk all day. I love his accent. Yeah, he's great. And
read this phone book in its entirety.
Soundtrack, dude. Oh my god, I already like the soundtrack, but then they like some of the tracks just for the DLC for Songbird exclusively. I'm like, oh my god. I've been like posting like clips to my Instagram because now Twitch allows us to share to our Instagram, which thank God. So I've been posting clips there, and like every time I talk about because I always try to explain to people like what I've been doing, especially there because I haven't been posting Instagram. I'm always saying like, dude, if you haven't played it, if you wrote off Cyberpunk because the game wasn't perfect when it came out, or you haven't gone back to it since all these updates, all these patches, and since the DLC, and you haven't touched the DLC, absolutely take a shot at it again because I already liked the game before. I got very lucky when the game came out. I was going to buy it on PS4 at first, and then I canceled my pre-order and bought it on PC, so I didn't get as buggy of an experience. And I actually didn't get that many bugs in general. I had a very solid experience for the beginning. Or whatever problems were, I was able to overlook. So I already enjoyed it before. It's so good now that I could even put it up there as one of my favorite games now. Like it's so much better now. It's plays well. Like the versatility with your builds is great. Like I'm just
as well. There's
oh my
so
god, they did
little nuance you can go
and
through.
the integration with Edge Runners, because I want to go watch Edge Runners again after this because it's just I'm in a cyberpunk mood, and
it is a banger.
Cyberpunk was so good. I watched 3 episodes of Edge Runners, an anime.
You should watch all of it. It's such a good show, man.
I fucking hate anime. By the 3rd episode, I'm like, this
you do me a favor because I think you would like it. I really do.
I did watch it. I watched 3 episodes, but by the 3rd, I'm like, this is too anime.
The whole thing.
No, it's too anime. Go play a 2,000-point incursion of Warhammer 40k.
I'll play Marvel Rivals if you watch it.
I don't care about Marvel Rivals. It's soulless fucking cash grab. It's really fun.
But, no, it's fine.
How is she going to play Warhammer, especially a 2,000 pointer, without purchasing the army?
Too.
True.
How am I going to watch Edge Runners without purchasing whatever streaming service that was on?
That's fair.
Anyway, I'm relatively certain you already have Netflix.
No, I don't.
Really, the gist of what I've been doing is like for streaming. I've been exclusively playing that. I also played the first Berserker Khazan demo when that came out.
Yeah.
And because Bryan was very excited. I know I think you already picked it up, right?
I already had it downloaded. I didn't play it until after you though.
Okay, so I liked it.
I
think it's not going to be a day one purchase for me. I'm going to wait a little bit. Primarily, and this is my own personal gripe. Anybody can disagree with me on this. I hate the exhaustion debuff in that game. And I'll tell you why. I played another game called Steel Rising, which is another Souls-like, and I would consider First Berserker because I'm more God of War-esque than Souls. But it has a lot of Souls integration in there, like, losing all of your experience and everything.
The Souls games were so informative. That DNA is in a lot of games.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so I would say it's a kind of a good hybrid of the two, but very anime. And that's it's fun as hell. But I remember I played a game called Steel Rise, which is another Souls-like, but it's based in takes place during the French Revolution. It's pretty fun, but it's not that difficult. And one of the things I remember they integrated was the same concept of the exhaustion, but in her case, because your character's a doll, she overheated and you had to maintain your coolant. And I fucking hated that mechanic. It pissed me off more because your character will run out of stamina. And unlike Souls games where, you can still move, but you're moving at a slower rate, your character will just fall and then just like sit there like a lump of shit for a couple seconds. and it opens you up to so much. And I'm hoping that the skill tree, because I like that you can respec at any point in this game, so that's cool. That's very but you can remove things and then move them around. Like if you decide, like I was using the spear for a while,
Oh,
so
I
I was
love
like,
the
I'm gonna
spear. Spear was so good.
Spear is fun, but like but I took the spear, all the skill points I put on the dual wielding, and I was like, I'm just gonna put it on the spear then. Like, and like that's a great idea. I don't know if that's smart to do in the long run. So I'm hoping that there maybe down the road that the skill tree will help alleviate some of that frustration I have with that debuff. And it's such a simple, small thing, but it's something I never like when developers put in games. Because it makes you worry you're starting to micromanage your stamina more than you usually should, and that takes away from the experience for me. Especially like if my stamina falls and then I'm just like, oh, I gotta sit there and gotta recover it, then it just opens you up, and then it just I'm not fond of it.
Yep,
and anyone can disagree with me, and that's fair. I think you're wrong, but that's fine. You could disagree with me. But I like it. I think I'm gonna maybe I might pick it up on release, but I definitely liked it. I liked it more the more I played it. Like it took me I hate the monkeys though. I don't like the shit flinging monkeys.
The shit flinging monkeys, yeah.
I hated him. And then I must have I must have clicked past the tutorial, or maybe they didn't give it to you at all. I didn't know you had a javelin. And oh my
they
god,
do tell you. Yeah, they do tell you.
I just started javelining the fucking monkeys, and it was game changer for me. I was like, okay, this game's great now, because now I don't have to deal with these. Because I went over I was in the second mission after the first boss, and I went into that corner, and there's 3 of them, and I was like, I can't hit him. And he keeps jumping, he keeps moving back and throwing shit in my face. I was just getting so upset.
Yeah, this shit gives you a debuff. I can't remember what it was, but I remember going, why can't I...
it's like a toxicity or something like that. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember.
It actually stopped you from being able to do certain moves or attacks though. Yeah, so I was just like, wait, why can't I do that? And I was like, oh yeah, because he's flung shit in my face.
Because you have shit in your face. It's awful. It's wonderful. Kind of made me want to play with Kong again.
It's so wonderful.
It's also wonderful. It did make me want to play with Kong again. But it's fun. And I think the demo is still available. So if that's a game that you're interested in, like I think everyone should give it a shot. And I think more developers really should start doing this, because it's like I was interested in, but I do like that it gives me an idea of what to expect. And if I do want to
play for Veilguard, did it?
Veilguard.
Well, if anything, it worked too well for Veilguard. People knew what to expect. I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, well, don't be Veilguard.
Yeah.
If you play a lot of indie games, you've played a lot of demos, because indie games are like, do a demo.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's my thing.
Like, I like being very critical about games, because like I will never be. The most annoying thing about me is I'm never going to be 100% happy with anything, and but it's also because I like to see where games can improve, where things like I don't like I'm not saying like I'm going to be complaining the whole time. It's just I like to look at these things at a critical lens.
So you can enjoy something and still critique it.
I'm like that's why I said like I thoroughly enjoyed the first Berserker Khazan, and I could say that there's a certain component about it that I wasn't very fond of, but I would still be able to look past it, especially if with the upgrade system the skill tree offers some sort of allegiance to that remedy to that debuff. And I've seen other games do that, like Liza P did that, where they had a skill tree, but they didn't really tell you about it, which was which was a bizarre choice. And you end up, when you start focusing and tunneling in on the right thing, it starts improving your experience. With that instance, I like to be hopeful that this game will go in that route, and I'll enjoy it more, because the more I was buffing my character, I was seeing an improvement, and when I took my time to grind, I was seeing an improvement in myself, and I love that about games like this, where I like overcoming that adversity and succeeding in the end. So I think it's good. I think it's going to be a solid one, man. Despite that complaint.
Yeah, I initially wasn't going to talk about a game in this segment of the show, because I completely forgot that I played The Last Berserker, and I was just going to talk about my dishwasher. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
But
like it's. I brought it up because I wanted to talk to you about it.
well, no, I'm glad you did, because now I can talk about it. Because I was like, oh yeah, shit.
And I also like I've been playing only like one game. Like I've been doing longer playthroughs on my channel, and Sundays are the days I reserve for like something different, you know. And I like to play like demos and try things out and see what we can get our feet wet on. So yeah, I'd love to hear your input.
So the worst thing about the demo for me is that it ended. Like I shit you not. Like it was one of those things where you fight the boss at the end, and I'm like, ooh, and when I say this, I mean it quite literally ended. So you beat the final boss, and I was like, ooh, I've just got some gear from this final boss. I want to run around and wail on random trash, but it doesn't let you. It just goes, no, the game's ended. You have to exit.
They give you gear and you can't even
use it. And I was like, oh damn it! I actually really like the game, because I tried out all the weapons. There's a great sword, there's a dual wielding, which is one singular sword and one axe, and then there's a spear, and they all have their own move sets. And as Pulp was alluding to earlier, they have their own like passive tree, so you can invest heavily in different types of attacks, synergy with combinations and stuff like that. So I, with the spear, had this really cool attack where you do the full animation where you do like 4 hits, and then you'd follow it with a heavy, which would make me spin around them by like impaling them with the spear, and then they would stumble, and then that would give you their back to wail on a bit more until you run out of stamina. So like I would compare it, if anything, a lot more to Black Myth Wukong, whereas instead of stances, it was different weapons. So like, admittedly, the two of us didn't use the other stances, but I think that was more because the stances weren't that different.
I think Black Myth Wukong, very similar to, but which has a lot of God of War influence too. So I think both of those are very fair comparisons. And then you got that little sprinkle of Souls-like.
Yeah, 100%. With regards to Khazan, though, the difference in the weapon, they are a substantially different feel to the move sets, and like I said, the passive trees are relatively extensive. Like I say passive tree. There's like you move to the one weapon set, so you go to the spear, and there are loads of trees for the spear, so you can invest in like if you prefer wailing on them with heavy attacks, you can go to that.
If you were tunneling in, like, but when, for example, when I first saw the skill tree, and I was using the dual weapon. And because I when they gave you the great sword, I was like, oh my god, this is so slow, and I died almost immediately because it threw me off too much.
Right.
But like I didn't tunnel in, I didn't use the great sword. I was like, hopefully this isn't going to affect me later down the road. But then they gave the spear, and I'm like, fuck, I've been tunneling in on the other one. But I like that I could go, wait a minute, I could take it off.
Yeah.
And move them. That's a great. I do like that. And that's why I would say I'm not sure if that's going to impact us deeper, like further down the road. But it is a cool concept, because that way you can be like, okay, I like this better. I want to see this through.
My assumption is it's just so you've got some more build variety, so you can be like, I like this weapon, I'm going to go with this weapon, and then make individual builds.
Maybe one day you'll get a really cool great sword, and you'll be like, wait a minute, I gotta use this.
Exactly, 100%. And that's the thing, that the loot is very Neo-esque, so it's not like in Dark Souls games where you go, oh, I've got this weapon and it just does this, and then you only get a different type of weapon. You can be like, okay, I've got a spear, this is a white spear, it has damage on it. Oh, I've got a blue spear, which also gives me increased damage to light attack specifically, or it gives me increased health or something like that, kind of like a Diablo-like or an action RPG. You can get different levels, rares, legendaries, set items as well, so you can like mix and match sets together and things like that. So the build crafter in me finds it very, very appealing. The art style, I'm a big fan of the art style. Obviously, we've dropped the term anime a couple of times. It is anime, but it's like detailed anime. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like, they've got a pink skin tone and one slightly darker tone to indicate shading. There's actually like loads of like black lines and line work in it, and it looks really, really good.
Anime-esque, but like it doesn't. You know, like there's certain games that are just, they're so anime. They're bright color, the voice acting. It's just so.
It's more like light novel kind of art style, I would say.
Yeah, and
like
in
Japanese
this case, it feels more like, I would relate it to like Berserk.
Yeah.
Or something like more darker, like it doesn't have like the exaggerated expressions, the exaggerated colors, which a lot of the anime, which if that's your thing, that's entirely fine. If you like the very exaggerated art style and bright colors and that works. But this is not that kind of anime. It's definitely more subdued. It like one offensive thing was that my helmet kept hiding his hair. He put it in a ponytail, and then I put the helmet on, and his hair's gone. It's
the
like, well,
fashion, though, I've got to say, there's some good fashion. Sorry, go on.
Can you hide the helmet in the game?
I don't think you can.
I remember remarking on it, and yeah, I don't think you can, unfortunately.
I don't think you can. No, because you start the game, his he has his hair is pretty long, and then the next cutscene they showed him with his hair like in a ponytail. I was like, that's cute, and then my helmet's back on. I'm like, oh. Yeah,
it is kind of a shame. At first, I was like, oh. But then again, as I just mentioned, there's actually like really cool designs for the armor sets, and they do vary wildly. There's very fashion souls in there.
A lot of loincloths, man.
Loincloths and stuff like that.
He's got his thighs out everywhere in the snow.
Yeah. There was
hey, I'm listening.
There were genuinely times where I was like, oh, that's a really good item, a really good helmet in terms of like stats.
It does,
but that one gives me the head of a wolf, and I was like, "Oh my God, do I go for that
Bryan
one?"
the Builder has become us.
No, I've always been like that, 100%. Like, I believe that you could get a helm with 10 HP, but you also get a helm with 10 fabulous points, and fabulous points means more damage. So I almost always go for fabulous points.
It's definitely going to be one of those games where, like, early on, it's going to be you're going to have this disjointed armor set because it's oh no, I need because that's what I had for a while.
Some of the sets in combination do look sick,
though. Boss, it's really nice, but I don't want to. And I have the art bracers that match it, but then I can't find I saw the pants from the beginning, like or the chest from the beginning. It took me forever to find shoes.
If you do like the loot chase as well, that is definitely an appealing point to it. It's definitely a tough game. I would say it's got like a parry and a block in it. And for the most part, I would say they're pretty.
Parrying. I was parrying a lot.
Initially, I think I was trying to dodge a lot. I was dodging a lot at first, and then I was like, "Fuck it, I'll give the parry a go." And the parry is actually, like, say, in comparison to like Lies of P, is a lot more forgiving. There's the window of opportunity to actually parry is like significant. Not to the point where it's like, oh, you're just gonna push the button whenever you want, and you always parry. There is skill.
It's definitely one of those games where it rewards parrying more, because like I started. Because same with Lies of P, just as an example as well, because I drew the same example when I was playing, is that I naturally gravitate towards dodging, because I just like that. I don't usually have spirit or shields or anything that gives me the parry mechanic. So I went and but I do, as soon as I started parrying it, that's when I was starting to put together that it felt more like God of War, because I was parrying constantly. And it just feels like it feels heavy, and I could see the benefit to it, like where it would knock them off a lot, and you could get into a rhythm.
What was the question, Peachy?
Batman Arkham Asylum, like that kind of parry.
Oh yeah.
Where you basically got the entire world to press the button.
Oh no, I wouldn't say you got the entire world. It's just in Lies of P, it was like 300 milliseconds.
Yeah, no, you were saying, oh, it's not like super easy.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, but and like with Batman Arkham Asylum, like it gave you an indicator, and this game doesn't. It's definitely
that's very. Everyone should play this game, and a little while ago, not everyone would be playing Dark Souls and enjoy that. That was a very do the thing. Okay, yeah.
It's definitely something like you can pick. It's easy. Brian's right. The window is a lot bigger than like something like Lies of P. It feels more like Sekiro in that regards, like where like the window was open.
I like the window in Sekiro.
Yeah, I would compare it to Sekiro more, because like I enjoy Sekiro a lot. And because like it made me feel confident in pairing. So with this game, I feel that same confidence, because like because it was easier to pick up than I would say that like Lies of P.
100%.
I don't like combat where I'm like, oh, one slight mistake and I'm dead. I need a bit of a window. But I'm not like a hardcore Souls player at all.
So. Yeah, no, I understand you. Yeah, I think it's still fast, but it's slow enough. Like it's a good pace. Like the combat has a really good pace. Where like with the bosses, it would take me a second. There's still a lot of trial and error in the game. But as soon as like you start picking up the rhythm of the parry, it really started feeling really good.
And that's another thing as well. Like it's got a power fantasy to it, but it doesn't make you feel like you're just wiping the floor with stuff. Like you do, like with many action games, you actually have to learn the fight. You do have to be like, okay, so when he starts raising his arm, it means he's probably going to do this attack, and I need to dodge in that direction rather than the other, or block or parry and so on. Like you'd still treat it as a Souls in terms of like how you approach the fights, but you've got so much more tools in your arsenal. Like you in Souls, you have 2 attacks essentially, and then maybe a special. Whereas in this game, you can literally make almost like in a fighting game where you've got a list of stuff you could learn, and then that becomes your arsenal. Whereas in KAZAN, you basically go, okay, I'm going to invest in these combos, and then I'm going to learn them, and then I can dodge and attack at the same time. You can actually synergize attacks with your dodge, for example, so you can attack immediately after a dodge. You can do other things with dodging, like it leaves an after image and stuff like that. So it just gives you a lot more tools, but you'd still approach the fights in the same way in terms of how the damage is delivered to you, I suppose. One thing I would also remark on that I wasn't expecting to be as good, because I was just like, Weeb game gonna have really bad localization. Ben Starr is Khazan. Didn't even see that coming. As soon as I heard his voice, I was like, fucking Clive! It's fucking Clive!
That's who it is?
Yeah.
Same voice actor. 16 more recently than I did, so I'm not surprised you picked up on that, because I know it sounds great. Like everything is great. It's very, that's why I said like it's not hyper style, like that hyper stylization that some anime games have. It feels more grounded, but with that anime look. So that's why I would compare it to something like Berserk or something that has like that more hyper realization or realistic look to it, where like people are still like their proportions are still like human-esque, like you can
human-esque. The little asterisk there, esque.
Well, Khazan is a beef castle. He's definitely a beef castle.
Yeah, and he's walking around on snow with bare feet. That's also why the exhaustion debuff didn't make sense to me. I was like, this man's walking around with his feet barefoot on the snow, but he gets tired after rolling too much. True. Excuse me. But
as we all know, foot insulation is directly proportional to how much stamina you have.
There's going to be someone in the comments who's going to be like, actually.
And actually, you're wrong.
Okay, don't call them out. Let them do it. We need the engagement.
We need the engagement.
Engaged, and I'm just going to, I'll accept it.
Yeah, but overall, I am definitely looking forward to it. I've already got an off-stream game at the moment, so it's going to be nice to have something that's a bit action RPG adjacent. Like, technically it is an action RPG, but just in the different category of action RPG.
When it comes out, or are you going to play it off?
I'm not sure if I'm going to play it, or rather, I'm not sure if I probably will stream it. I'm just not sure when I will stream it, because it's going to depend entirely around Path of Exile and when they do things. Which, speaking of, just quickly go through that. GGG have delayed Path of Exile 1's next league. We don't actually know when. It's already like been 7 months. It's usually, for those unaware, every 3 to 4 months. Like they do a quarterly thing. And the success of Path of Exile 2, like Path of Exile 2 had nearly 600,000 people at launch and has retained players extraordinarily well, to the point where it's still around about 150 to 200 players like over 2 months on. Bearing in mind, most games lose 80% of their audience within 2 weeks. So it's been doing very, very, very well. So because of that,
how are the Path of Exile 1 players feeling about that?
They are a little upset, because there is like somewhat of a Venn diagram where there is, quite a lot of the overlap, I would say, where a lot of PoE 1 players are obviously playing PoE 2. Not all of them enjoy PoE 2 though, because PoE 2 is designed to be a little bit more slower paced, a bit more deterministic in terms of combat and stuff like that. You're supposed to use combos. It's a little bit imbalanced at the end game at the moment, and in fact to the point where it probably feels like PoE 1, but unintentionally at end game. So there's a lot of people who are like, I just want my zoomy game that has all the things. Plus, obviously, PoE 1 has like 12 years of endgame content added to it, as opposed to PoE 2 that's 2 months old and in early access and literally is only half the game. So there is a loud but nonetheless vocal minority of people who are very, very upset about it. I still empathize with them though. I was kind of looking forward to the new PoE 1 league, because obviously I don't want to get burnt out on a game that hasn't been updated for a few months. But what's happening is they are sorting out a bunch of stuff with PoE 2. There's going to be another big content update relatively soon, probably within the next month. And then once they've got that and slightly more fine-tuned some of the end game stuff, they're going to go all in on PoE1 and get a new league out and things like that. They're actually doing an event in the meantime where in PoE1 you've got ascendancies. They've had ascendancies that they've made in the past and not used because they were a little bit broken, and they're doing a 1-month event where they're just putting in the broken ones so you can fuck around with it, and it's just added as an extra event rather than a new league. So it's just temporary, so you can go in and just like play these broken builds kind of thing and just fuck around, which I think is just a really cool way for them to handle it. They're like, yeah, we fucked up, we thought we could make 2 games at once, but it turns out the game we're currently focusing on is a little bit more broken than we anticipated, and we want to get it up to snuff and so on. So like, I have a lot of empathy for them. I have a lot of empathy for the PoE1 players. It's an all-around shitty situation, unfortunately. Bloodborne, the 60 FPS mod, got DMCA'd.
I saw that.
Why now is the question.
Do you think that Sony is finally going to try and push out some sort of remaster, and that's why they're shutting it down?
Potentially, because that's been out
That's what I've been thinking
since
too.
2021. And it was like, as soon as it came out, people knew about it. So Sony knew about it and they didn't care.
They didn't touch it.
Even a legally distinct Bloodborne cart, or whatever it ended up being called in the end, they knew about that for a long time. And they even then only...
Great.
But they only like DMCA'd that.
I have so little faith in Sony when it comes to their mishandling of the Bloodborne IP. I'm likely that's probably what it is. That's usually companies won't do this shit where like they shut down something like that, like a mod. That's because it's not a new game. It's just a 60 FPS mod for
it's a mod that gets more people to buy your game, if anything. So yeah, so it's very weird that they're doing that.
It sounds like that's what it sounds like to me, is that Sony might be have been gearing up to do a remaster. Especially,
this is a little bit of hopium on my part, if you consider that Bluepoint have recently had their live service God of War game shit canned. Bluepoint being the people who made Demon's Souls, the remake for PlayStation 5, and another one before that. I can't remember what they remade before that, but they're really, really good at doing that. So they've now got no project to work on, and suddenly they're like, let's DMCA the 60 FPS mod kind of thing. So like, it's a bit of hopium, but if Bluepoint did it,
that's probably what it is. Like, that's the likely chance, and I see it's I can't, like, I'm not thrilled on Sony doing that. That's not. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm not very pleased with them. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, that's fine. But potentially a bit of hopium, potentially Bloodborne remaster.
It'd be very nice to have a 60 FPS, like an official 60 FPS Bloodborne, but I don't like rewarding Sony for that kind of shit behavior.
100%.
Are they going to put it on PlayStation? Because only 7 people in the world have ever played Bloodborne, and they will fucking tell you about it. They're like vegans from the 90s.
Honestly, it's single player, so from what they've literally said, it means that it will only be PlayStation, at least for the timed exclusive, because they've specifically said that their single player stuff will be timed exclusive and then PC.
That's the thing, is they're missing out so much on the market, because I know they are putting games out on PC now, and the one thing, I don't know why Sony hates money so much. All they have to do is make a 60 FPS remaster to sharpen the graphics up a little bit. You don't have to do much. And put it on PC.
The longer it goes on, the less market there is, because people are like,
Well, it's like, the sad thing is like, because like Bloodborne is what got me into Souls, so I do love the game. Like, I completely, it's going to be one of my favorite Souls, and because it's like, I owe to enjoying the genre. But the thing is, like, it's no offense to anyone who is like this, it's very embarrassing when I keep seeing like, where's the Bloodborne remake, where's Bloodborne 2? It's like, stop, just keep those thoughts to yourself. Don't put that in the ether, because it just looks so embarrassing now, because every time you're let down, I get it, but like, just don't keep your hopes up, because Sony clearly is just, I don't know what they're smoking.
Like, my theory is that they're just saving it for the next gen.
Please.
Yeah, my theory is that they, at least originally, they were saving it to the next generation. And like you, whenever you see the next PlayStation State of Play, everyone's like, Bloodborne. It's like, it's not gonna be fucking Bloodborne.
I just don't think that PS5, I'm so sorry. It's just, and I have a PS5. I like my PS5.
I don't think
But
in current year a Bloodborne remaster would be a good idea. It kind of looks, the gameplay kind of looks old.
I don't know. It is heavily in demand. It is very
yeah,
much
but
in
I'm
demand.
saying for a
I
new,
think they
like,
could
yeah, I'm sure
shorten
the
up.
7 people who played it originally, because it was only one platform out of what 7. I'm sure the 7 people who played it will buy it again for sure. But for a new audience,
I think
a
you're
PC audience,
underestimating. I genuinely think you're
Yeah,
underestimating
you're definitely
like,
underestimating how many people love this game. It's
Bloodborne's like one of the most reputable.
I know more than 7 people have played this game. It's a
it's more
meme,
like
right?
8.
But past that audience that it already has, it looks a bit clunky and old.
I
It looks
just think
But if they remastered it, they would get rid of the clunkiness.
I would just
but
probably.
a remaster just means it's 4K 60 FPS.
I'm not
Not
I'm not
necessarily.
gonna try to predict what they're gonna do with the remaster because I have zero faith in Sony. I would only say that I don't think waiting for next gen is the right move because I don't think PS6 if PlayStation 6 is going to be coming out soon is the right move because it PS5 like barely anyone owns it at this point. And even I still say this as somebody who owns a PS5, it is not worth the money anymore, like at all. Like it's not worth. There's not enough exclusives to justify that price point unless it's something you know you're going to use all the time. So it's like I don't know. It's just it's hard to.
I could see
putting it on
Bloodborne.
PC is the smart.
I could see Bloodborne being a console shifter though.
Yeah, launch title. Yeah,
Yeah,
I could
actually see it being a console shifter.
If Sony wants to be smart with this, it would be do the 60 FPS remaster remake. I don't know, whatever you plan on doing, but make it a PS6 launch title, and you'll see a profit.
Oh, yeah,
Sony wants to be smart. Come on, live in reality.
No, that's why I said if they want to be smart, but I'm not.
Yeah, big if.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not. Dude, I have so much trust in Sony.
The last thing to wrap up is those of you who may have enjoyed Multiverses, which was quite big when it was out in beta and then just dwindled thereafter. The servers will be going down in May, unfortunately. They will have an offline mode, so you will still have access to it, but it's another failed, unfortunately, to say that, Warner Bros. Live service. Go on.
There are still offline modes you can play.
Yeah, the servers go down, but there is still going to be an offline mode, so you can still do local matchmaking.
Killing the game. Like looking at the drop off, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense that they've turned those things off, and you can still play it. So they're not killing it, but online is gone, and I'm sure most people who played it were there for the online, so that's really gonna suck.
Yeah,
but the thing they bought still works to a degree, to a limited degree. They can still play it. By the way, the new sign thing petition for the UK for Stop Killing Games is up now. The government have responded in a really shitty fucking non-answery way. But 100,000 signings on that, and it will have to go in front of MPs. So stopkillinggames.com, I believe. Go there, sign it if you're from the UK. If you're not from the UK, go to that site and it'll show you how you can help in your countries as well.
Yeah, I believe the EU have got some bills underway that do similar things. But yes, that's going to be it from us this evening. So, Pulp, shout out.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm a former Instagram model turned Bryan. And now that I don't use Twitter, you can find me on all my social media under Pulp Fiction. I've been using TikTok and I've been cross-posting a lot of my gaming content to Instagram right now. So I'm actually active, sort of. But anyway, I've been playing Cyberpunk and I wanted to check out the Monster Hunter Wilds beta, but PSN was down last night. I already own the game.
It's still down now as far as I'm aware.
So I'm gonna see if the game will run on PC for me. It didn't run too well last time, so I'm not holding up. I don't have too high hopes. But if that doesn't work, then I'll figure maybe I'll play some Iceborne or more Cyberpunk. I don't know. But I'll be live later tonight after I do my Pilates and my Spanish lessons in Stepper. So yeah, work out, guys. It's great. Puts me in a great mood. Peachy.
Pilates.
Pilates.
Don't you want that Pilates body?
Pirates, yes.
Pirates.
Yes, there we go. Rum. Hi, I'm Peachy Pixelate. I like Warhammer. Oh, emotional support Warhammer. I am currently playing Project Zomboid over on my channel, twitch.tv/Peachy Pixelate. Next, there's no stream tomorrow, but next week I will be playing 7 Days to Die. I'm really stepping out of the comfort zone and playing a survival, semi-crafting zombie game. It's a different game. And I'll be playing that next week because I will be away and we're having a vacation game. We're going to play something as a vacation. Thanks for watching the podcast. If you're watching this after the fact, give us a comment. Give us a like. Do a little dance. Make it. Don't do the second thing.
Make all the love.
No, stop it. Stop it. Pay it. We're gonna in the middle of the episode. We're gonna have to put
like, comment, subscribe below.
Do the things because it does legitimately help get this to more people. If you enjoy it, other people will. Thanks for watching, Bryan.
Hi, I'm Bryan the Pirate. I am going to be live tomorrow. Usually I'd go on after stream, but I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I just want to spend more time with Tifa alone, frankly. So tomorrow, however, I will be live with probably either some Path of Exile 2, or a game called Sworn. It's in early access. It is basically a Hades-like, but it's co-op, and it's got all the different weapons and stuff. It's very, very, very fun. I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out already. It literally launched the other day and has a 20% discount as a launch offer. I will then, of course, be on probably throughout the week, and you can find me on all the socials under Bryan the Pirate, and I mean pretty much all of them, barring Snapchat, because I'm a millennial and I just don't do that anymore. But that's going to be it from all of us. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to my hosts, as always. Farewell. We'll remember you.
Bye.
Bye.